Today is April 10th. Welcome to Big Book Daily. My name is Rob. I am an alcoholic. It's a thrill, honor, and joy to be here with you today as we journey through the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous and the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions. Today, out of the Big Book, we're going to be reading out of the Personal Stories, Part 2, They Stopped in Time, Story number 3, which is The Housewife Who Drank at Home, pages 295 through 298. And out of the 12 and 12, we are going to be continuing our journey through Step 12 by reading page 109. So with all that, my friends, hope you're doing well this morning. Life is good over here. Cannot complain a bit. Let's go ahead and get to the good stuff. All right, everybody. So if you recall from yesterday's reading, we wrapped up out of Part 2, Fear of Fear, where our narrator, she really urges living in the now. I really like her last paragraph. I am trying now, each day, to make up for all those selfish, thoughtless, foolish things I did in my drinking days. I hope that I never forget to be grateful. And I think that's the mentality I certainly want to have. So we're going to continue with our third story here, The Housewife Who Drank at Home. She hid her bottles in clothes hampers and dresser drawers. In AA, she discovered that she had lost nothing and had found everything. It's a great hook right here, guys. We're going to be reading 295 through 298. My story happens to be a particular kind of woman's story. The story of the woman who drinks at home. I had to be at home. I had 2 babies. When alcohol took me over, my bar was the kitchen, my living room, my bedroom, the back bathroom, and the 2 laundry hampers. At one time, the admission that I was and am an alcoholic meant shame, defeat, and failure to me. But in the light of the new understanding that I have found in AA, I have been able to interpret that defeat and that failure and that shame as seeds of victory. Because it was only through feeling defeat and feeling failure, the inability to cope with my life and with alcohol, that I was able to surrender and accept the fact that I had this disease and that I had to learn to live again without alcohol. I was never a very heavy social drinker, but during a period of particular stress and strain, about 13 years ago, I resorted to using alcohol in my home, alone, as a means of temporary release and of getting a little extra sleep. I had problems. We all have them. And I thought a little brandy or a little wine every now and then could certainly hurt no one. I don't believe when I started that I even had it in mind, the thought that I was drinking. I had to sleep. I had to clear my mind and free it from worry. I had to relax. But for 1 or 2 drinks of an afternoon or evening, my intake mounted, and mounted fast. It wasn't long before I was drinking all day. I had to have that wine. The only incentive that I had, toward the end, for getting dressed in the morning was to get out and get supplies to help me get my day started. But the only thing that got started was my drinking. I should have realized that alcohol was getting hold of me when I started to become secretive in my drinking. I began to have supplies on hand for the people who might come in. And of course, a half-empty bottle wasn't worth keeping. So I had to finish it up and naturally had to get more in right away for the people who might come in unexpectedly. But I was always the unexpected person who had to finish the bottle. I couldn't go to one wine store and look the man honestly in the face and buy a bottle, as I used to do when I had parties and entertained and did some normal drinking. I had to give him a story and ask him the same question over and over again. Well now, how many will that bottle serve? I wanted him to be sure that I wasn't the one who was going to drink the whole bottle. I had to hide, as a great many people in AA have had to do. I did my hiding in the hampers and in my dresser drawers. When we begin to do things like that with alcohol, something's gone wrong. I needed it, and I knew that I was drinking too much, but I wasn't conscious of the fact that I should stop. I kept on. My home at the time was a place to mill around in. I wandered from room to room thinking, drinking, thinking. And the mop would come out, and the vacuum would come out, everything would come out, but nothing would get done. Toward 5 o'clock, helter-skelter, I'd get everything put away and try to get supper on the table. And after supper, I'd finish the job and knock myself out. I never knew which came first, the thinking or the drinking. If I could only stop thinking, I wouldn't drink. And if I could only stop drinking, maybe I wouldn't think. But they were all mixed up together, and I was all mixed up inside. And yet, I had to have that drink. You know the deteriorating effects, the disintegrating effects of chronic wine drinking. I cared nothing about my personal appearance. I didn't care what I looked like. I didn't care what I did. To me, taking a bath was just being in a place with a bottle where I could drink in privacy. I had to have it with me at night, in case I woke up and needed that drink. How I ran my home, I don't know. I went on, realizing what I was becoming, hating myself for it, bitter, blaming life, blaming everything but the fact that I should turn about and do something about my drink. Finally, I didn't care. I was beyond caring. I just wanted to live to a certain age, carry through with what I felt was my job with the children, and after that, no matter. Half a mother was better than no mother at all. I needed that alcohol. I couldn't live without it. I couldn't do anything without it. But there came a point where I could no longer live with it. And that came after a 3 weeks illness of my son. The doctor prescribed a teaspoon of brandy for the boy to help him through the night when he coughed. Well, of course, that was all I needed, to switch from wine to brandy for 3 weeks. I knew nothing about alcoholism or the DTs, but when I woke up on that last morning of my son's illness, I taped the keyhole on my door because everyone was out there. I paced back and forth in the apartment with the cold sweats. I screamed on the telephone for my mother to get up there. Something was going to happen. I didn't know what, but if she didn't get there quick, I'd split wide open. I called my husband up and told him to come home. All right, my friends, very interesting stuff. Definitely want to come back to this in just a minute. All right, my friends, so out of the 12 and 12, we have been journeying through step 12, which is having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps. We tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. And for the last 2 days, we've been recapping the 11 steps leading up to step 12. So finally, on 109, we're going to talk about what happens next. Top of page 109. So, practicing these steps, we had a spiritual awakening, about which finally there was no question. Looking at those who were only beginning and still doubted themselves, the rest of us were able to see the change setting in. From great numbers of such experiences, we could predict that the doubter who still claimed that he hadn't got the spiritual angle, and who still considered his well-loved AA group the higher power, would presently love God and call him by name. Now, what about the rest of the 12th step? The wonderful energy it releases, and the eager action by which it carries our message to the next suffering alcoholic, and which finally translates the 12 steps into action upon all of our affairs, is the payoff, the magnificent reality of Alcoholics Anonymous. Even the newest of newcomers finds undreamed rewards as he tries to help his brother alcoholic, the one who is even blinder than he. This is indeed the kind of giving that actually demands nothing. He does not expect his brother's sufferer to pay him, or even to love him. And then he discovers that by the divine paradox of this kind of giving, he has found his own reward, whether his brother has yet received anything or not. His own character may still be gravely defective, but he somehow knows that God has enabled him to make a mighty beginning. And he senses that he stands at the edge of new mysteries, joys, and experiences of which he had never even dreamed. All right, so I love this. While this is fresh, I think this is just a beautiful picture that's being painted here of step 12. just working with others, his own character may still be gravely defective, but he somehow knows that God has enabled him to make a mighty beginning. I love that. So sometimes, even early on, we can feel a little bit of this kind of peace, this spiritual awakening here. And it's amazing to witness, it's amazing to see. And going back to the big book real fast, buddy, our narrator's already, her life's getting unmanageable. I mean, she's at home, she's hiding her drinking, she's drinking in the bathtub, she's drinking to kind of just do herself at the end of the day. She's drinking because she had to sleep, she had to clear her mind, she had to relax. And then a little later on in that paragraph, she had to have that wine. So for me, the obsession right there, as soon as she wakes up, she wants to get to her supplies, in quotes here on the text, page 296. That was me. Once I got all the chores done and everything like that, that was my one and only reward. And I'd rather go into the garage and drink than be with my own family. I knew, deep down, I knew this is probably not normal behavior. Just like I think our narrator here knows. This is probably not normal. But I don't know if I wasn't just ready to let it go yet until the pain was bad enough. I don't know. I don't know why I wasted as much time as I did before I finally darkened the doors to some of these fellowships. But I always like what I've heard. Sometimes it takes what it takes. And everyone's pain threshold is a little different. Some of us have to experience more pain than others. But pain is a great teacher. And this poor woman is in a lot of pain. She's pacing around her house. She is delirious. She needs help. And she knows it. That's why she calls her mom in that last paragraph. This is a serious disease, And I know, too, we can kind of laugh at it, some of the ways we hide our alcohol and everything. It's good for me to laugh, and it's good for me not to take myself too seriously. But, I also have to be reminded that for at least a guy like me, alcohol is a matter of life and death. If we're sober today, we have been given new life. We are a miracle. I don't know what the numbers are. I would love to know the percentage of people who stay sober versus the ones who are still alcoholic or still drinking out there heavily. I'd say it's very, very slim. But the fact that we're here and we're sober today truly is a miracle, and I believe it's given me a purpose. And step 12, going back to the big book, or going back to the 12 and 12. I've had a spiritual awakening as of the result of these steps, and I have. I just try to carry the message, and that's what I'm doing today. It's not me, it's just what I'm reading. And I'm trying to practice. Practice makes progress in this case. I practice these principles in all of my affairs. That is my selfishness, my self-centeredness, my lust, my fear, my anger, my resentments. That's in my finances or my professional life or whatever, my family. Practicing these principles in all my affairs, getting outside of self. It's a lifetime job, but it is so worth it. Guys, that's all we have for today. I hope you all have a great day. It is a thrill, honor, and joy that you're here with me. I don't speak on behalf of AA or any other sect or denomination. I am just a friend in recovery. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to seeing you back here tomorrow.